G'day, it's Jonathan here from Dawson Heating and Cooling. Today I'm going to show you how to remove and clean the filters on your Daikin Air Purifier. It's a pretty quick and easy process. We're going to have to do it every couple of weeks. You have to do some general maintenance like cleaning the pre-filter on the machine, but then every 2 or 3 months you'll have to go a little bit further and pull the whole machine apart and clean all the filters. So let's jump in and see how that's done. Firstly, what we need to do is remove the front cover. So down the bottom, either side of the front cover, there's some little tabs. You need to push both those tabs. The front cover will pull out from the bottom and then you'll lift it up and the whole front cover comes off. So as you can see here, this filter on this air purifier, this is the pre-filter. This is actually quite dirty. This hasn't been cleaned, it's been used quite regularly. This hasn't been cleaned in quite a while. So what we need to do is we need to remove and clean that. So the first thing we have to do is we can pull that filter straight out if we only need to clean the filter alone. And you do that by just at the top, just grabbing the little tab at the top. And then as you can see there, that filter is actually quite dirty. So we've got a couple of different ways we can clean this filter. This is called the pre-filter. We can actually use a vacuum with a brush end on it, or we can take it into the laundry and wash it under the tap in the laundry, or you can take it outside and wash it off with a hose, which is generally a preferable option. For now, for this example, I'll give it a quick clean with the vacuum cleaner. Okay, and as you can see there, it's actually a lot easier to see through the filter now, therefore air can get through it a lot better as well. So the next step is to remove what's called the plasma ionizer. It's actually, simple terms, it's known as the Unit 1, and you'll see it's got Unit 1 written on the front there. What we do is we grab the tabs on both sides, and we pull that out at the top, and then lift it up, and it'll lift the tabs off. So if I turn this around, you'll actually see there's a lot of metal plates. These are called opposing plates. They actually all need to be removed and cleaned, and the whole thing should be cleaned and wiped over. So firstly, what we'll do is we'll place that down here, and if you see down here, there's some little tabs. There's some little tabs on either side on these. So you actually have to push those tabs in, and then that'll lift out. You push the tabs in on both sides, and that'll lift out. So what we can actually do is we pull these both out actually, so I'll pull them both out. And these need to be cleaned approximately every 3 months, or if you're not using it often, you'd probably get away with every 6 months. But if you're using the system regularly or it's running 24/7, I'd suggest pulling these out at least every 3 months. To clean them, first of all, what we do is we just want to get a dust brush or our brush on the vacuum, the same thing. We want to go and we want to brush them all off, get as much of the loose dust off them as possible. You want to make sure you get into all the cracks and crevices. So you might want to use something like a fine brush, paintbrush, or if you've got an old toothbrush you may have. And if you want to get into the finer crevices to get all the dirt out, that's a bit hard, we can use something like a cotton bud, and we can get into all the little crevices and make sure it's wet. If it's damp, we can get into all the crevices and clean it all out. So I'll do that now. Okay, then we turn it over, make sure we do both sides. And then the next step is we'll put that in some lukewarm water and let it soak to help it release the rest of the dust that's in all the crevices. So I'm going to put that in now. We want to leave that in water for a considerable amount of time, about half an hour will probably be good. If there is a lot of excess build-up and oily build-up on the plates and that you can't get off with the dust brush, when you soak them in the water, it's recommended that you just use a small amount of neutral detergent just to help break up that dust. So we'll put them in here now. We'll do the same with the second one. Give it a dust off. Okay, so we'll put this one in as well. We'll give it a soak for half an hour as well. So now we need to clean the ionized frame. This is actually the Unit 1 that we said before. As you'll see in here, there's lots of little tiny thin wires. Be very careful because you can cut your fingers on those. So you may want to use gloves doing this so that you don't cut yourself. We need to actually clean each of those wires very gently with a light brush. So once again, I'd probably recommend using a little paintbrush with fine bristles, and we just go across and gently clean each of those wires off. There's only a little small bit of dust on them, but this is enough to just break that off. if you see this one here, it's actually come away from the little frame. If it does actually come out of the little V, make sure you put the wires back in so they're running in between the V's. If that's not running in between the V's, it'll cause the unit to malfunction. So just be very careful of that. You can rinse it off with water, so take it outside and just give it a gentle hose off. And that, if it's only some light dust, that'll get it off. But if it's a little bit more heavier and caked on, we want to actually soak it in. We want to soak it in the water, leave it for a good half an hour, and then come back and give it a brush off with your brush again. Okay, so while the unit 1 and the opposed plates are actually soaking, what we next need to do is go and get the pleated filter out. Now, the pleated filter is actually the electrostatic filter. It catches all the fine particles and the odours as well, and any pollen in the air. It'll pick up the finer particles that weren't picked up by the pre-filter. As the air flows through, it goes through your ionizer plates and the wires, and it actually gets electrically charged. Because of the electrostatic effect, it causes it to stick to the pleated filter. We need to pull out this whole unit. As you can see, the blue unit comes out, you pull the tabs on both sides, pull it out at the top, and then that can be removed, lifted up to remove it. Now, there's little tabs on both sides. This pleated filter just literally pulls straight off the tabs. As they're pulling off, it's quite easy. You can then just roll it up, because if it's got a lot of dust in it, it's easy just to roll it up. Saves getting dust everywhere. And we do the same on the other side. And that can just go in the bin. Okay, so once the pleated filter is removed, it exposes the deodorizing catalyst filter. This one here, you can't get it wet, so you're not allowed to hose it down, don't soak it in water. You can use a very slightly damp cloth to wipe it over if you need to, but the best way to clean this one is to use a vacuum cleaner with a brush end on it. Very gently though, because you can damage it. So we'll just give that a quick clean. We want to make sure we do around the frame edges, the filter itself, but also do around the frame edges, and then we'll turn it over and do the back side as well. Okay, so now that's done, we've got to actually replace the filter media on the front of it. So we'll get the pleated filter out, one of the spare pleated filters out of the box here. And we can take that out of its wrapper. Okay, so when we put the pleated filter on, what we need to make sure is, you can see a little sign here, a symbol here that says filter guide. We know that's the front, so that's the side the filter goes on. Filter guide. Then you can also see down the side, here's the little tabs that need to have the filter, the pleated filter reattached to them. So we need to make sure we face that side out, and then we get our filter and we have the white side facing us. So the air will go through the white side first. And then you just grab the 5 tabs on each end and just pop them straight over the little tabs. There's a little hole in the pleated filter. It should just be able to be popped straight over. So there's 5 on that side. Okay, we now need to make sure that the filter sits nicely in the little filter guides. So you'll need to bend it a little bit just to get it in. There's a little filter guide at the bottom and the top. Pull that all the way across. And then we put the 5 tabs in this side as well. It's easy to do it with it sitting on a bench, obviously. I'm just holding it up to give you an example so you can see how it's done. And make sure it's all even. Just give it a little bit of a brush across to make sure they're all even. And that's your pleated filter ready to go. Okay, so now that the pleated filter's back in, before we actually put the whole frame back in, the blue frame back in, we want to make sure we clean any dust off the machine. So we want to give it a good dust off with a dust brush or a vacuum with a brush end on it, like I said before, and then give it a good wipe over just to make sure there's no more remaining dust or pollen sitting on the unit. So first of all, you want to concentrate on this little sensor here. That sensor is actually the dust sensor. And then if you go across to this side, there's another little sensor that's the odour sensor. So we'll just get our brush and brush them off. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is remove the streamer unit. The purpose of the streamer unit is to use high-speed electrons to remove odours and bacteria from the air. So we need to remove it as well to give it a clean. So we grab, you can see it here, it's called Unit 2. There's a little handle that we can pull it out. And we pull it out and there you go. This can be cleaned with a light brush over like all the other components. If it's extremely dirty, once again, we've got to actually soak it in water and give it a good clean. For now, I'll just give it a good dust off with a very, very fine brush. We just want to give it a good clean out. Any of the items that you've soaked in water, after about half an hour, you can pull them out. Give them a good clean, actually. You then got to have to leave them out for a good half an hour to an hour to dry out. Okay, so we've made sure everything's had time to dry, so now it's, we just need to put it all back together again. So the first step is we're going to get the blue filter and put it back in. Now we want to make sure, like I said before, filter guide, the word filter guide needs to be at the top, and the white panel, the white pleated filter should be facing forwards. So firstly, we're going to put that in. There's two little tabs down the bottom. We should align them with the two little tabs on the machine, push it in and clip it in on both sides, and that's done. The next step is we're going to put the opposing pole plates back on the Unit 1 frame, which is this one here, the first one we pulled out. So we grab each of the plates and line up the tabs on each end. Just click them down until you hear a little click. And we've got the second one, goes in exactly the same process. There's a little tab on each end. You just push it down and you must hear that clip on each side. Okay, so now Unit 1 is ready to go back in again. So we just have to line up those two little tabs. That tells us it's the bottom. There's a little sign on top that says top, so that makes it pretty easy. Okay, so we want to make sure the opposing plates, these green and silver plates they've got to go at the back. We then line up the two little tabs down the bottom of the unit. Once they're lined up, we just push it in, clip it in at the top left and the top right. Make sure that clips in nicely. If it doesn't clip in nicely, something behind may not be fitted exactly correctly. So if it doesn't fit in nice and easily and pop in, make sure you actually check what's wrong. Otherwise, you might damage the unit. The next step, we've got to put in the pre-filter. As I said, don't forget to clean this every 2 to 3 weeks. We know the pre-filter is in the up position because it says front at the top. So you'll see a little front symbol at the top, and we'll just scroll down here and you'll see each side, there's a little tab on each side. You just line it up with those tabs and you bend the filter a little bit, and one of the tabs is slightly different to the others, and you'll see that just has to clip into its little slot on the side. We have to reinstall the streamer unit. The streamer unit, which says Unit 2 on it, make sure it's facing upright so that you can read Unit 2, and that just slots straight back in like that. Okay, the final thing we're going to do is put the front cover back on. One thing I did forget to mention before, when you're cleaning the front cover, on the left and right there's two little holes, and they are the actual holes that let the air through to the sensors that I was mentioning before. Make sure the holes in the front cover are cleaned as well so that the air can actually get through and the sensors can sense accurately. So we now want to put the front cover back on. We just want to put the two top tabs on first, and then lower the unit down, clip it in both sides, and it's done and ready to go. So that's everything that you need to do to get the system clean and operating at its best. Please let me know if you've got any questions, drop a comment below and share this with anyone you think might find it useful. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day.